Hey guys, welcome back to Keeping Up with the Nerds minicast issue number 5. We got a special one for you because, ladies and gentlemen, the most anticipated movie of the year just came out. Well, for us nerds, at least.
Yes.
Ghostbusters Afterlife. Woo.
Yeah.
Yeah, your voice is gone.
Yes.
By the way, welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
So, for the listeners that don't know, Nick went on vacation on a cruise. Had tons of fun.
I can't. I can't do anything of loud.
That's all good. It's all good.
So
Save
Bryan,
your energy for the podcast.
Yeah.
By the end of the podcast, he's like shot. Voice is completely gone.
Yeah, probably.
So, Ghostbusters Afterlife came out November 19th.
Yes, it did.
Yes. And we went to go see it November 18th, that like pre-release kind of thing that they always do. Honestly, I'm going to start off by saying this. The advertisement for this movie was like hype when it was first announced.
Yes.
And then it kind of like slowly started to go away.
Well, because Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. It literally was like, we can't compete here.
Yeah,
We're
that's
going back out.
Because as a person who was disconnected from the world for about 4 days, I didn't even know there was a Spider-Man trailer until I got home. Like, I literally got home and I was
You were
like,
literally far from home.
Oh, that's right.
Because Spider-Man released while I was gone.
Yeah.
So did Halo Infinite. Like, there was like just a bunch of things that just decided to be released.
So did you see it when they showed it in front of Ghostbusters? Was that the first time you were watching it or no?
That was the second time I watched
okay.
it, because I had watched it on my phone when I was waiting for like the car to come pick us up. But it was like, you know, like early in the morning, and you're like trying to like watch it on a phone, and you're like, oh, is that the Goblin? I think that's Goblin.
Well, we'll talk
Is that
about
Doc Ock?
that on issue 74?
Four.
Yeah.
We'll talk about
Talk
that
about
then.
Ghostbusters now.
But for Ghostbusters, I think that movie really did get hurt by the pandemic.
It did, because it originally said it was a 2020 release.
It's almost like, what, almost like 2 years? It's like almost 2 years off.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I felt like the pandemic, in a way, it hurt it in terms of advertisement. Right. But it did a better... How it bettered itself was it gave it more time to polish.
Right.
Like, if we're going to talk about, you know, because I feel like there's 3 key points that we discussed yesterday in terms of what we really liked about this movie. And if we're really going to talk about, like, what we did like in terms of just this movie specifically, the polish that I saw was that there was more attention to detail in what to showcase, because we mentioned it. The streams from the Proton packs.
Right. It's the same Proton stream effect that they used in the original the original 2.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's so interesting. They also used a lot of the same music. Used a lot of the same music from the old one. Yeah, and they even modeled what was it? Not Slimer. What's his
Muncher.
name? Muncher.
Yeah.
To like Slimer.
Where he was kind of like Slimer and stuff like that, which was really cool.
Played by Josh Gad.
Instead of eating food, he would eat metal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was actually really cool. I actually liked that.
That was a clever way of using a ghost.
Yeah.
To your advantage. That was kind of cool.
And he spat back the metal in like little bullets.
Like a machine gun?
Yeah, that was actually scary. I was like, oh man.
What? They're gonna kill these kids.
Like, the worst thing that Slimer could do was slime you.
Yeah.
Like, this guy was just a machine gun in his
This
mouth.
is out to kill, man.
Yeah, man. But yeah, it was really, really good. I enjoyed the heck out of this movie. I know that the reviewers don't like this movie as much as
they forget the reviewers. This is like one of those movies, and we'll talk about it because this is gonna be a 2-parter, guys. Right. Forgot to mention at the beginning. So it's a 2-parter minicast, issue number 4. This is gonna come out Monday, and then the last part is actually gonna come out Friday. That's more of an in-depth analysis of what the reviewers are basically saying for this movie, because it is lopsided as all hell. It's
well, because
like
the fans love it, but the reviewers are like okay about it.
Yeah,
they're giving it a D. That's what a 65 is. It's a D.
It's a D. It passed.
Yeah.
It passed.
It barely passed.
Passed.
You know, you don't have to. It doesn't have to retake summer school or stuff.
No. Rene's like, what?
I'm like, dang it.
So, the attention to detail, it had that polish, because in the original trailer, you mentioned this way far back in one of our previous issues of the podcast. You said that when the trailer first came out, the streams were green and blue. And now we're getting that original orange blue, you know, streams. So it allowed itself to polish and have more attention to detail. Even the tones, the color, and the saturation, the contrast of like the trailers from when it first came out to now, completely different.
It does feel like, based off of the first trailer where they were showing like some beginning, like, okay, this is like we're finishing up special effects on certain things, they were able to kind of go back and polish it more, because there was a couple of things where, like, when I remember watching it the first time with, I think, both of you, I was like, that looks good, but it doesn't look as good.
Well, they were blurring out. I think they blurred out Muncher in the trailer when the special effects were at least somewhat
He was
finished.
more of a green. He was closer to like a green color. Yeah.
And then like in the fast motion, you could tell that they blurred that out. And then also the ghost that Paul Rudd let loose near the school buses.
Yeah, that was different as well.
That
the
was
dog.
That was the gatekeeper.
Yeah, and they blurred that out because they didn't want to show the demon dogs and anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was really interesting. I really appreciate this movie because you said it earlier today when we were kind of having our meeting that it's very Force Awakens-esque of, is this essentially the first movie just set in a smaller town?
Which it's like basically they did it like Star Wars, where it's like they took something that's familiar,
yes,
and then rehashed it for both new and old fans.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea that they did in this one because it was okay, cool. Because I felt like it was more believable. Because I'm not gonna lie, it's really lame when you have what was it? When you're just going like, oh, so what did the First Order do? They made another Death Star.
Yeah, that's it.
And like it's like, oh, that's kind of dumb. Yeah. Like, what they do, they just thought Death Star needs to be planet-sized, like bigger,
just big.
Last time
Death
it was
Star,
a moon.
big.
Yeah.
And instead of one stream, we got multiple streams.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of interesting. The idea of, okay, so what about if we made it that Zool was reincarnated every 30 or so years?
Yeah.
And it takes place in different areas across the world, and that would be that's really interesting. And it's kind of like, oh yeah, people have been able to stop her every single time, and now she's resurrecting again.
Yeah, I did like how they explained that the architect that built all those things did it in New York City, but then also has another one in Somerville.
Yeah, you caught that detail, which is cool.
They actually mentioned Somerville in the first one because he's like, oh yeah, like they mentioned a couple of like little tiny things, but in the original comic books, not the comic books, in the animated show, Egon says, "I grew up in Somerville." So it's really cool that they like took some of this lore that necessarily wasn't, lore. However much lore you could really have for Ghostbusters. But I mean, they were like, okay, cool, we have Somerville and we know Egon went there, so why don't we just send him there? Like, why don't we send him to Somerville? And he was researching, Igor Spangler. Like, he was wondering, why did Igor Spangler do this? Why was he there? Why was he pulling metal out of that mine? Why did he build an entire town in the middle of the desert for absolutely no reason? Like, there were questions that needed to be answered by this cultist, and it sounds like Egon figured it out and was basically he was standing watch. Yeah, his watch had begun, and the beginning of this movie, his watch ends.
It's a good explanation to why he's not there, knowing exactly why, but like it's a good kind of like, we're not going to say that he passed, but this is why he's not in the movie.
Well, that's the thing, and I think that's something that we can move forward is how they treated Harold Ramis in this movie, where it's beautifully done. They showed us in the beginning, Egon is doing what he found out. You see him driving around, going back to his house, but it's blank. They're using the night to cover his face a bit.
What it kind of looked like, it looked like there was an actor who they were then face swapping, kind of like they did with Luke Skywalker from Mandalorian.
Yes.
And then, but what they were doing is they were doing the darkness to then
not work so hard.
Yeah. So that way,
they got his silhouette down.
Because they got his silhouette was down.
Yeah.
Like you had his hair, you had everything else. So I feel like what they did was they kind of did that same facial mapping, and then they were like, okay, cool. If we obscure it with darkness, we won't get as hurt as like how Luke Skywalker was in the end of the Mandalorian.
So
and stuff like that.
it's kind of like when we think of this, we're nerds. We're going to compare it to the two most, used forms of this, which is Star Wars. They used it in Rogue One. They used it in the last Star Wars movie. And they use it in Mandalorian. And Mandalorian is probably the best use of that kind of tech in that movie, or in it, because you could really see that if you're not really paying much attention to it, you'd be fooled to think that it is, why can't I think of his name? I'm brain dead
Harold
today.
Ramis?
No. Luke Skywalker.
Oh, Luke Skywalker.
You mean Mark Hamill?
Mark Hamill. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh my God, dude. That's it. I'm done. I'm done with this podcast. I can't do it. I can remember Mark Hamill's name. But yeah, you would be fooled to think, right? And here, you don't see his face 100%, right? But his silhouette is perfect. It's respectable, and he doesn't even speak.
No,
he doesn't. Which every other version that we know of, they use a voice actor in a way.
Either that or they use some form of
lines
voice.
Recorded.
Yeah, lines recorded. So like I think what they did for Rogue One, they used a couple of interviews, and then they also used like outtakes from the original movie, and then they also used like other movies that he was in order to basically piece together his lines.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a little hard. That's way harder to do for one, especially for a movie that...
The sound design is just, you need to actually know how to how to sound mix properly to not make it stand out.
I feel like it's very charming the way they did it, but also I feel like it was a budgetary thing, because that's expensive to do.
You're talking about Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, with like Carrie Fisher, God rest her soul, her lines in that movie were so out of place. Like, I felt like they didn't do her justice. They didn't do her well. Here, we didn't need to hear him. We just saw him. We knew. And granted, we saw him throughout the movie, but as an entity that we didn't see until the very end.
The very end, which looked great.
It was just so great.
I was really shocked.
Did we cry? Because I teared up.
I started tearing up.
I cried at the end when he hugged his daughter.
I teared up then. I also teared up when she went downstairs, because I kind of figured that's what was happening. I just kind of like automatically assumed, I was like, if this movie is going to try and pull my heartstrings, it's going to show that Egon wasn't a deadbeat dad. He has been doing the Futurama thing of I've always been there.
Yeah.
I've always been looking out. Because I really want to see this movie.
Why'd you have to mention Futurama? God damn,
that's a really good scene, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
But what was it? The thing I really want to do is I want to go back once it comes out on DVD or on like streaming services, whatever, and pause it, because he wrote notes.
You did.
And the notes are pointed towards her, where it's like she moved in with this brand new roommate. They aren't getting along. Do I intervene? And like there's a question mark, or there's like, and like it's just all these things of like,
he was a guardian spirit.
He was very much a guardian spirit of like he's always been kind of watching out for her. Not monetarily, but like he's always he's known.
He was a dad.
Yeah, he knows what's going on in her life, and that's kind of that was hard. That touched my heartstrings a lot.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming, and I was like, and that still hurt me.
Yeah.
Not only that, but also seeing the boys back in their seats.
So it was so funny because I knew about Ghostbusters because of my dad.
Yes.
So to me, it made me tear up because this was a movie that my dad would have just enjoyed like a lot.
Yeah.
Because this was very much just kind of like a tribute to the original Ghostbusters.
Right.
And even Andy, who I just showed Ghostbusters to her like last year, she's never seen it. She even was just like, "Aw," when like they all came out, and like it even got her, and I'm like, "Yeah," because we all knew they were gonna be there
based off the trailer, because they showed like the three hands right there, and they had Bill Murray go like, "Oh, did you miss us?"
Yeah,
and that was really cool.
Yeah,
but like even that scene, the way they walked in was just so well done. It was just a great piece of tribute to the original Ghostbusters, and it did so well in terms of like respecting the fan base that followed this series the entire way through. Ghostbusters is what, 2 big successful movies?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
technically
I would count this 3. I would count this 3 with a with a largely successful animated series and
largely two
I
successful
remember
animated
watching
series.
the animated series.
Yeah,
Which
it was
one? The
really
non
good.
one or the
Both.
non Ghostbusters? I grew up with both.
Yeah, I grew up with both.
Yeah.
I remember the one where Slimer was like a sidekick.
It
Yeah.
was like the pet.
Yeah, like he was like the station pet.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
just like, oh, Slimer.
So this was pretty much a tribute to that.
Mm.
And you know, when we look at the characters, because this was very much, we didn't get the old cast until the end of the movie. This was very much a story of the newer kids who are going to be taking over, or supposedly taking over.
Yeah.
In terms of,
And I have to say, they picked an excellent cast.
they did. The
Yes.
cast was
'Cause
phenomenal.
Great.
Without those kid actors, this movie does not work. You don't get to the point or care the moment that the boys show up. You aren't invested because it only
Yeah.
matters if you're invested in the movie. It only matters if you care. And I feel like they did the original movie really a huge justice. They did these other things. Like, I love the idea that the little kids, like, she's 12. Obviously, she doesn't know what happened in New York. But then immediately she tells her older brother, and her older brother's like, yeah, the ghost sighting in New York. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
all
he
about
knew.
that.
Yeah, he's heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, like, obviously, like, I have internet. I know what that is.
So we talked about this, and I feel like Rene completely agrees with me on this one. Is that the original cast of the Ghostbusters each had their own quirks, and these kids, besides Phoebe, all have their own separate quirks. So it's not a copy paste formula of the original characters.
Yeah.
Phoebe is Spangler through
Yeah.
and through.
Yes.
The looks, the acting. She even said the line is like, "I'm a scientist." She said that, and which is a complete Spangler thing to say.
Yes. Yeah.
But when you look at every character, Podcast, Trevor, and the other girl, I can't remember her name. You have it? You gotta find the long list.
Lucky.
Lucky?
Yeah, her name was
The
Lucky.
girl. Okay, so they all have their own special things. And you could say, like, oh, you know, this is Ray and all this other stuff. Like, you can kind of compare them, but they're not one-to-ones, which is really great. And it respects that. This was pretty much a passing of the Proton pack.
Absolutely. I actually, and it even works too, because there's a line Bill Murray says to Phoebe where it's like, oh, hi, the name's Peter Venkman from the Home Office. Where he immediately automatically goes like, you guys are Ghostbusters. Like, you guys are this faction of ghost busting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's such an awesome like moment of like being recognized by the original actors.
Yeah.
And I feel like it gave that certain respect, but also it gave that acknowledgement that the other Ghostbuster movie really didn't do, and that was another reason why it really didn't succeed.
Yeah.
It was an overall...
Just to talk about the was it 2016
2016, 2018.
Ghostbusters?
The all-female
The
cast?
all-female cast.
The SNL cast, essentially.
It was. I think we talked about it on the way home after we saw Ghostbusters. It was okay. It had funny moments, but it just, the reason why it didn't do so well because it doesn't acknowledge the original Ghostbusters.
No.
It's not a like passing of the torch. It's basically, oh, it's a reboot, but we're not going to acknowledge the original at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
more of a separate, like, how can we reboot this for the newer generation? And this was very much a respectable movie that allowed the people that grew up with Ghostbusters to pass this on. Like,
Yeah.
this definitely, if I was in the age range of, like, anywhere between, like, maybe 13 to 18, and, you know, my dad was the one that was like showing me this is definitely the type of movie that you showcase to your kids and be like, this is what I grew up with. Now it's your turn to be an enthusiast
That's the
about
thing.
Ghostbusting.
The thing is that I'm excited to have this one, Afterlife, packaged in a brand new Ghostbusters box set. Like, I want this with the other ones.
Oh, it
Yeah.
has to. Yeah.
Yeah, when they come out, as like, because this is an appropriate trilogy.
Yeah.
Now it's an appropriate trilogy. It's a passing of the torch at the very end. You kind of find
Not
out.
the torch, the Proton pack.
Protesting above the Proton pack.
They literally passed the Proton
That's
pack
the name
over.
of the episode. That's why Brian's trying to say.
It works.
And so, besides that, I think that what they really did well was they made sure that everybody on board. Great acting. I'm not saying that the 2018, 2016 Ghostbusters movie didn't have good acting. It did, and it was funny at certain points, like you said. But I think that they tried to make it too bridesmaidsy,
The 2016.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's not this movie. That's not Ghostbusters. That's because it was a little too goofy for Ghostbusters, and Ghostbusters is goofy, but there's a lot of serious moments in Ghostbusters. There's a lot of moments
where very much a 1980s-esque movie in terms of it trying to sell itself. You know, that's what I mean by that. It tries to sell.
Also, it has those like kind of like jump moments where you're not scared, but you're just like, whoa, like that scene. Yeah,
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, in the 2016 one, it was like, oh, we have these like big monsters, but it's like you said, it's goofy.
Yeah. Like, we're gonna make it goofy. Oh, look.
There was like a pterodactyl, wasn't it?
At a certain point, Chris Hemsworth was just like a sexy ghost. I don't get it. I think honestly, Chris Hemsworth was the best part of that movie.
He was actually. He was pretty funny. I didn't think he was gonna be so funny.
Do you mind if I wrap this up real quick?
Go
Because
for
we're
it.
running on that 20-minute mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, little last thought, but I feel like who's the director of this?
This is Jason Reitman. This is Ivan Reitman, the original director. This is his son.
Okay. You can tell that this is a movie that he really wanted to respect because you know, one of the things when I think of, like, you know, you want to respect the franchise and movie, I think of the director that directed the episode of The Mandalorian when they steal the child and take him to the base.
Robert Rodriguez.
The way he formatted that entire episode by having him, you know, do the action figure fight scenes to kind of portray and map out the fight scenes and all that. This is what I think about it. I feel like he looked at what tools he had with Ghostbusters and said, okay, what can we do with this movie? The practical effects of the gatekeeper, the dog, was practical. And the only thing that was, you know, altered in CG was the face.
The facial
Everything
features.
else was practical, which is fantastic because that's what they did in the original Ghostbusters. The Ecto-1 was the Ecto-1 with like 2021 improvements. Got the gunner seat that comes out.
Yeah, no, it was basically just a bunch of fans. Like, what would you like? Basically, like, you're just talking.
Ecto-1 do anything.
Yeah.
What would it be?
Gunner seat. The Ghost Catcher has 4 wheels and you can RC drive it. Once it comes out, I'm definitely gonna buy that.
I want to see that whole thing. I want to see a high-speed chase with the Ecto-1.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the one thing.
And they did it.
Like, that's the one thing. It's like we've never seen them use Echo 1 like they did in this movie. Like, that's something that's
drift every corner. It was like it was like if Ecto-1 saw Knight Rider and said, I want to be that. And it
hold my ectoplasm. It's just like
I also really like the ending where podcast is covered in State Farm marshmallows.
It's just like the original.
Just like in the original, and like, what was it? And Ray just kind of comes up to him and he's like,
oh god.
Like,
podcast made us cringe so much because we just like
it gets better after issue 46. The amount of times we've said that.
The amount of times he said that, and then the
said
amount of
such
times
relatable things.
He said so many relatable things to podcaster.
Listen, if there's a celebrity out there that listens to us or subscribes to us,
please put it in the comments.
Yeah, please, because that's insane. That
we need that ego boost really bad because right now it's low.
As you can tell, Brian's like, I quit.
I couldn't even remember Mark Hamill's name. Ugh, oh my god. Okay, I think it's about time to wrap this up.
Let's do it.
Part 2, we're going to be talking about the potential sequels and critics' review and thoughts on this movie because, oh my god, it's a travesty. I think the audience is doing it justice. Critics are not having it, and we're going to give our analysis on it. So stay tuned, guys. That's going to be a mini cast that will be released on Friday. And just a heads up, follow us on all our socials: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. There you guys can find all the information of when we post things. We also have a website, keepingupwiththenerds.com. We will be posting all our content on there when it's updated. I've been trying to keep everything up to date. It's difficult, but everything will be out there, as well as our guest interviews from issue 72, 3, 4, 5, right?
Yeah.
70s, issue 71 through like 74 or something like that. All our guests are going to be up there with their interviews, so go ahead and check those things out. Support, like us, whatever it is. If you guys are listening to us on, or watching us on YouTube, because these are the mini casts, go follow our audio podcast, Keeping Up With The Nerds. Those you guys can find on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Follow us, leave a review for an Apple Podcast, and you guys can listen to our beautiful voices for another hour and a half to 2 hours, you know. So there's that. Subscribe if you guys are watching this on YouTube, please. We want to reach 125 by the end of the year, and I think we can do it. So love you guys. All right, with that said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. This has been Keeping Up With The Nerds mini cast issue number 5. My name is Bryan.
Rene.
And Nick.
And we'll see you all in the next one.